Yes. James. James, look. Goose splash. Oh, wait. Don't look because that is frozen up.
It is frozen. Is that added on?
No, I posted it.
Oh.
It was on, it's in the Crucible module. This is so weird.
I'm just slow.
No, it's okay.
I had to write the whole thing today.
Uh-oh.
I had no clue what it was on campus.
Well, we should get through everything that we have to do pretty quickly, and you might have some time. Okay, is this working? No. Cool. Ugh. That's really annoying.
There it is.
I wonder if I turn this off or back on. How many what? 4, including your intro and question.
I got a good last note. I thought we had to do blue body. Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's try this again. And see. Okay, that's just not gonna work at all now?
Hey.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm the only one here.
There's a couple people waiting in the waiting room. I'm just trying to figure, my AirPlay is like not really working today for some reason. Okay, it's doing better. Jenny and Cece are coming in. It's really slow on this screen, but no. That's very, very strange. I guess that's what the deal is, but it's really annoying. Oh, I'm not going to grades. I'm going to... Come on. Don't look, don't look, don't look.
We can't see nothing, Mr. McClellan.
Yeah, I know. It's because I don't have my camera on. Nobody has their camera on.
Oh, buddy. Oh, Mr. McClellan.
Yep. Yes?
Is it me or is everybody just too excited?
Everybody's too excited?
Yeah, one, the British found a vaccine, well, a 99% vaccine for the COVID-19, and Biden won.
I mean, it sounds like there's some things to be excited about.
Eh.
I haven't heard this thing about the vaccine. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Go on BBC.
He's saying that they, that the British have found a vaccine.
Milestone vaccine offers 99% corona
Probably
protection.
hasn't been tested. Okay, Cece's trying to be here, but she had to restart her laptop. Alyssa's here. Alexis is not here. James is here. Jenny's here. LeBron's here. Huh? No? Is it? You know what? I might be ready for it. Okay, no Zane.
I would have been okay if he lost, if he did, but the way he lost, because they obviously.
I don't know where on earth everybody is today, but
139,000 votes consecutive to that.
here comes Cece again.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you.
Miss McCullen, can we watch Paranorman now? It's been
No, I'm sorry, we can't. We just have to get moving. We just have to do other stuff because we started this year so late. We're behind. I'm not saying never, but I am saying not right now.
okay.
This is being so awful and slow. And
It almost does some stuff. This took me like literally 10 minutes to put attendance in.
that's ridiculous. What's going on? What is going on with this today?
Yeah. You wear a backup shirt again?
He is not a backup. He's code. He's been over the last 4 weeks has thrown like 9 touchdowns in 1 pick. In 4 weeks, they would have done 4 votes.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty good. Over 1,000 yards too.
But he's not winning.
Have you seen the defense?
You look kind of like ET with the blanket like
The
that.
defense gives up 30 points in 6 weeks.
Okay, so we're gonna move on today, but I'm hoping that what we have to do won't take very long today because most of you have not submitted your Crucible essays, and you need to make sure to do that before 3 p.m. today. If you cannot find it, I know that James had an issue finding it. It's in the Crucible module, but you can also find it in the assignments tab on the side. So everybody needs to make sure that they get that submitted. We're really quite a few people low today, virtually. We have more people than usual in person, which is nice.
I give Anthony in the.
I was first 1 league, last another.
I won my last 6 games.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm publishing some things.
My one team, I'm in last place. I had second pick. I pick on Barkley. And then I've had, I don't know how I lose this team.
Okay, so hopefully you guys have watched the rationalism presentation, and I will also I will post the actual presentation at some point today. In fact, let me write myself a note to do it. Post rationalism presentation. But the first thing is, hopefully you have watched that. What are some things about rationalism? Like, what's their big, like, what are the big ideas? Cece.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I wrote this down.
I know you guys probably cannot hear her, but I wish I knew how to make the sound come through the TV, but I don't. I don't know what the deal is. It does, but it's not coming through the TV. It's coming through my computer, which is weird.
Hi, Alyssa.
Oh, what?
What is that?
I don't know what I did. I'm leaving it alone.
All really loud.
I'm leaving it alone. I don't know what I'm doing.
What'd you do?
I'll post that when like when we need to actually look at it in a minute. I don't know what I did. The AirPlay is like just being finicky today, so I don't know, whatever. Okay, Cece, what are some things about rationalism?
It should always be based on reason and fact rather than just like opinion and feeling.
Yes. What is their kind of like stance on religion? Anybody? So one thing to remember is that each new era of literature is influenced by what came before it, but they tend to kind of like do the opposite. So before, in like Puritan America, everybody was super religious and very like devout and passionate about their religion. And now that we're in the age of rationalism and reason, people are still religious. Like Christianity is still very much a part of America, but they kind of see it as like God created us with these great brains that can do so much. We need to use our brains, not our emotions. They don't necessarily, like everybody doesn't necessarily believe the same thing anymore. Like with Puritans, everybody was a Puritan, everybody believed the same thing. We start getting some diverse beliefs in the age of reason. So today, we're gonna look at some poems first, and the poems don't have an assignment with them, but we're gonna look at them for a second. And the person who wrote them, her name was Phyllis Wheatley, and she's actually pretty cool because she was a slave for one thing, and like for a slave to become famous in any time period is pretty awesome. She was educated and enslaved in the household of this like prominent Boston dude. And the presses in both New England and England published her poems. And I mean, for a slave to have like published work is unheard of. She was very educated. Most slaves were not even educated. But she was, you know, it's hard to say like her slave owners were good because they're still slave owners, but like they got her educated. They allowed her to write when, you know, many would not. And they kind of taught her to read and write, usually from the Bible or like history, some British literature. So like she's definitely sort of a standout person in the time period that she lived, because she was kind of sort of breaking down all these barriers that slaves had put against them. So we're going to look at a couple of her poems, or we're going to try to anyway. Oh, look, here's Cade. I'm just going to give myself a reminder to try to go back and fix this attendance, because with the way the computer is being so slow today, I don't want to do it right now. So I just published on Canvas the Phyllis Wheatley poems, and we're just going to look at them. I'm going to try to see if we can get this to work. Yay, okay. I don't know why it's all the way over there, but we're going to look at a couple of her poems and just see like what elements of rationalism we can detect. What can we figure out about maybe like her mindset? Is there any Puritan ideals kind of left over here? So let's look first at this one. I'll read this one, and if somebody else wants to read the second one, they can. This is called On Being Brought from Africa to America, and she was brought over on a slave ship from West Senegal, I think, which is in Africa. 'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Savior too. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew. Some view our sable race with scornful eye, their color is a diabolic dye. Remember, Christians, Negroes, black as Cain, may be refined and join the angelic train. That's all, okay. So what's the major like point of this poem? Is she glad to be in America? Is she upset to be in America?
Sounds like. You know what? I think another person should answer this question because I don't want to be answering questions today like that. Okay.
Okay.
So I nominate Alyssa. Alyssa, you can go ahead and answer this question.
Let me read it again and kind of break down some of the lines. So I'm not going to read it straight through. I'm going to comment a little bit. 'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, her pagan land being Africa, where they didn't really believe in Christianity. Hang on, let's get through the whole thing. Taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Savior too. So like before, when she lived in Africa, she didn't know anything about Christianity. She didn't know anything about God. And now that she lives in America, she does. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew. Some view our sable race with a scornful eye, saying that like some people look upon Black people with scorn or disdain, and they say their color is a diabolic dye. So like the fact that they're Black means they're less than or even bad. Remember, Christians, Negroes, Black as Cain, may be refined and join the angelic train. And that's kind of saying that even if you're Black, you can also be a Christian and be like part of God's kingdom. And these are all things that she learned for the first time upon coming to America. So is this a good thing in her opinion or not? Yeah.
I think it's a good thing because these Black people she speak low of can be Christian like her.
Yeah. Yeah. And she sees herself as like, this is probably one of the earliest instances of literature that tells us that in some ways everybody's equal, even though she's not saying, like, she's not denying being a slave, she's not like trying to get above her station or whatever, but she's like, we can all be Christians, we can all be part of God's kingdom, and in that way we're all the same. This thing is not staying on me. Okay, hang on, I think we only have the two. Yeah. Okay, so this is the other one. If somebody else wants to read it, they can. It's called His Excellency General Washington, in reference to George Washington. Huh? Celestial. Enthroned. Yeah, back then we just had some like weird apostrophes to leave out letters and stuff. I don't know why we do that, but we do. I would love to get that off, but you cannot minimize Zoom, but I want to. Anybody want to read this one?
Can I?
You gonna read it? Cece?
Yeah. No, unless if who said they wanted to read it?
Randall's reading it.
Okay, Randall, you can have it.
Very well. No, you can just speak loud or come over here.
Choir enthroned in realms of the light. Columbia's scenes of glorious toils I write, while freedom's cause her anxious breast alarms. She flashes dreadful in the regiment
Refulgent. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what that means.
arms. Sweet Mother Earth, her offspring state we moan, and nations gaze at scenes before unknown. See the bright beams of heaven's revolving light, involved in sorrows and the veil of night. The goddess comes, she moves divinely fair. Olive and laurel vines her golden hair. Wherever shines this native of skies,
Unnumbered.
unnumbered, okay, unumbered her charm and recent graces rise. That's the last piece, right?
No, there's more. You want to read this one and then
Yeah.
we'll have somebody else do it.
Means vow propitiation,
Propitious.
propitious, while my pen relates how o'er her army flew 1,000 gates as wind
Aeolus.
Aeolus, heavens fair faces deformed enwrapped in tempest and a night of storms and astonished
Mhm.
ocean feels the wild uproar, the behemoth.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Randall, could you yell a little louder?
You've gotten quieter as you've read.
Yeah.
Astonished. Or actually, you're like right here.
Okay. The fluent surges beat the surrounding shore, or think as leaves in autumn's golden rain, such and so many moods. The warriors train in bright array. They seek the work of war where high unfurled,
Unfurled.
the ensign waves in the air.
Okay, you want somebody else to do it? Cece, do you want to read? Oh. Well, I mean, they have it on their own, but I will share my screen. Or I will try to. Cece, you want to read or you want me to?
Oh, Mr. McClellan, where do we start reading?
We're going to be at the top of this page. We already read the first bit.
All right. So we're at enough.
We're at shall I. You want to read? All right, I'm going to continue.
Oh, go ahead. Do we want to get this over, right?
Yeah.
Go
Shall I,
ahead.
Washington, their praise recite? Enough thou knowest them in the fields of light. Thee first in peace and honors, we demand the grace and glory of thy martial band. Famed for thy valor, for thy virtues more, hear every tongue thy guardian aid implore. 1 century scarce performed its destined round when Gallic powers Columbia's fury found. And so may you, whoever dares disgrace the land of freedom's heaven-defended race, fixed are the eyes of nations on the scales, for in their hopes Columbia's arm prevails. Anon Britannia droops the pensive head, while round increase the rising hills of dead. Ah, cruel blindness to Columbia's state, lament thy thirst of boundless power too late. Proceed, great chief, with virtue on thy side, thy every action let the goddess guide. A crown, a mansion, and a throne that shine, with gold unfading, Washington, be thine. So granted, this one is definitely a little bit harder to parse through than the first one. Not just because it's longer, but like the language is a little bit more elevated. They use some references that we might not necessarily understand, but I think that's okay. We're not going to delve into it too deeply, but the title of the poem is His Excellency General Washington, and it's clearly kind of an ode to him and to the way that he's established America. All of the ways that she describes America are very like uplifting and sort of like, it's almost like she's in awe of America, which granted she might be, since she has come recently from Africa, which is going to be a whole lot less developed than America, even though America is not super developed at this point.
And what history books taught us were clearly false.
Oh, for sure. But like, what are you referencing in particular?
And how developed Africa is, they were false. and saying Africans are just savages and crap like that.
Oh, right. That's not true at all. Now, at this point, Africa, and I don't know specifically about Senegal where she was from, but like it has definitely developed a whole lot more since the 1750s, but so has America. I mean, like that's just to be expected with technology and, you know, how much growth countries have been able to accomplish in the last 300, 400 years, however long that is. So it's clear that she has a really deep respect for America and for General Washington. All of this kind of paints him in a really uplifted kind of light. And I just also want you to notice, like, the language that she uses is very elevated. Like, this is very flowery. She uses a couple of words that I don't know. Whatever that first word was, refulgent, I think. I don't know what that word means. And considering the fact that she had just come over as a slave and was uneducated then, and then educated herself, or like her owners, got her educated to the point that she could write this kind of poetry. I mean, this is not like 1 and 2 syllable words. This is really good and beautiful, and she's like using metaphors and references that a lot of people probably wouldn't have been able to do at the time, let alone slaves. So her story is really pretty impressive. A lot of the literature from this time period are like slave narratives, or it has to do with slavery, because obviously, like, with kind of the inception of our country, we're talking about like George Washington, John Adams times, everybody is owning slaves. That's, I mean, one of the things that our country unfortunately is built upon. So the next thing that we're going to do, if you guys look at Canvas, there's this thing called Abigail Adams' letter. And we're going to walk through this together, and then I'm going to let you work on it on your own and kind of explain like when it's going to be due. You should each, actually, let me go back to this for a second. When you go into this, it should, like the Crucible test, give you your own copy of this doc that you'll just write in and submit it. So first of all, we have a little bit of background about Abigail Adams. She was born in 1744 in Massachusetts. She was the second of 4 children. Her father was a reverend. Her health was delicate, so she never went to school. Her maternal grandmother, Mrs. John Quincy, had a great influence in her character and education. When Abigail was 20 years old, she married John Adams, the future second U.S. president. Abigail and John had 5 children, 2 daughters and 3 sons. One of her sons, John Quincy, grew up and became the 6th president of the U.S. So clearly, this is somebody who is very important in our nation's history. Literally, her husband and her son were some of our first presidents. 10 years after John and Abigail married, the beginning of the American Revolution took place. Abigail took care of the family and the farm, keeping her family away from bankruptcy. In 1784, she went to Europe to join her husband. She stayed in Paris for 8 months and then moved to London for 3 years. In 1788, John returned with the rest of the family to the United States. During the Revolution, Abigail wrote many letters that she is now famous for. And that's very true. There are like books of the letters that she and John Adams sent to each other. This is not the only class where I examined an Abigail Adams letter. We do that in my AP class as well. The Abigail Adams letters were like one of the big kind of literary landmarks of this era. Her letters talked about current politics and expressed her opinions. When John was serving in the Continental Congress, Abigail wrote him a letter telling him to remember the ladies when making the nation's new laws. Though Abigail really tried to give women more rights, the American Revolution didn't do very much in that respect. The new state bills said that all women were equal, but only white males had the full privileges of citizenship. It was clear in the letters that Abigail wrote that she was a Federalist. Her letters and writings are remembered as some of the best of her time. She spent the rest of her life in Quincy, Massachusetts, died in 1818. She was 74 when she died of typhoid fever. So we're going to briefly look at this letter that she wrote to her husband. It's a little bit, I think, easier to understand than the Phyllis Wheatley poems. But this would have been, you know, when she was away and he was serving in the Continental Congress. So we're going to look at this and then look at a couple of the laws that are enacted for women at that time. Does anybody want to read this? Okay.
Who gives a crap? I'll give it a try.
All right.
I wish you would never write me a letter half as long as I wrote you, and tell me if you may where your fleet are gone. What sort of defense Virginia can make against our common enemy, whether it is so situated
Mhm.
as to make an able defense, or not the something wrong with my head today.
No, that's a weird word, gentry.
Yeah, gentry lords and the common people vassals. Are they not like the uncivilized native Thank you, Britain represent used to be?
Has to be.
Oh, I hope they're riflemen who have shown themselves very savage and even bloodthirsty are not a
Specimen.
specimen of the
Generality.
generality of the people. I am willing to allow the colony great merit for having produced a Washington, but they have been shamefully dependent by a dumb more. It was cool to take this out because something wrong with me today.
No, you're doing fine. I have sometimes been ready to think that the passion for liberty cannot be equally strong in the breasts of those who have been accustomed to deprive their fellow creature of theirs. Of this, I am certain that it is not founded upon that generous and Christian principle of doing to others as we would that others should do unto us. I long to hear that you have declared an independency. And by the way, in the new code of laws, which I suppose it will be necessary for you to make, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, I don't know if this is actually a typo or if she spelled it wrong, but I'm going to fix it. If particular care, where am I? And attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. That your sex are naturally tyrannical is a truth so thoroughly established as to admit of no dispute. But such of you as wish to be happy willingly give up the harsh title of master for the more tender and endearing one of friend. Why then not put it out of the power of the vicious and the lawless to use us with cruelty and indignity with impunity? Men of sense in all ages abhor those customs which treat us only as the vassals of your sex. Regard us then as beings placed by Providence under your protection, and in imitation of the Supreme Being, make use of that power only for our happiness. So for like Revolutionary War era, this is pretty like progressive of her. Um, she willingly admits and kind of just expects her husband to understand that men by nature are often going to abuse their power. And if women don't have any power, then there's going to be a huge like discrepancy between the two sexes. She's kind of asking her husband, like, he is making laws, so she's kind of entreating him to please remember women when you're making these laws. Don't give men just unlimited power, because essentially they can't handle it, and it makes them like power mad, basically. And she even says, and I might be reading into this a little bit, but she says that people who want to be happy, men who want to be happy, give up the harsh title of master and become more of a friend. So maybe she's kind of saying that, like, if you want to be happy, you won't be such a tyrant, and maybe even like kinder to the slaves that you certainly own.
Are you saying that she's saying that nice guys finish last? Is that what she's trying? That's what you're trying to tell us that she's saying?
No, she's not saying nice guys finish last. She's kind of encouraging him to try to be a nice guy and to get other people to be nice guys too.
Simp, but okay.
Who have so much power kind of go mad with it and are just tyrants. And that's essentially, she's saying, like, we don't want to found our country on the idea that men are tyrants. Take some of their power away, give some of that power to women, and things can be happier and more equal for everybody.
Yeah, I can see what she's talking about. If she saw nowadays, she would question that power.
What do you mean?
Let's see. I don't want to be a jerk about it, but I don't know. I feel like all the guys, we kind of lost our power. We gave it away, obviously, but I feel like soldier became, well,
to debate
nice way to put it, Sims.
To debate this comment, because as y'all know, I am a strong feminist for women. I think all women are baddies. Let's talk about these past 4 years that we have had with a male president and a male vice president, shall we?
Oh, come on.
No. You brought it up, so we have to talk about it now. Okay.
I was talking about.
We let men have power. We've let men have power for all of eternity. For as long as humans have been around, for as long as any type of creature have been around, men have always just been in power. Right. You see it in any animal kingdom. You see it in basically any bacteria too. If we're really being honest, you see it in oceans. You see it in everything. So if you're saying that if we let men lose their power, I need evidence and I need proof, because from what I know, men have been taking over things since the beginning of time. I mean, our country was built on lying men. Our country was built on white men. Our country was built on the backs of the men from African countries. Our country was built on the backs of the men and the women and everything in between of the natives of this country. So I need proof and I need evidence of where you think we've let men lose their power over these last few years. Because as far as I'm concerned, Putin, Kim Jong-un, Trump, they've all had this power over us. They've all basically almost started World War III because we let them stay in power. Hillary Clinton was one of the closest things we had to a female president in this country, and she still did. And we just got our first African-American vice president, and she's a woman. I need proof, LeBron. Please, before we continue, I need proof that we let men lose their power in this country and in the world. I just need
this, CC. I wasn't talking about like president crap like that. I'm talking about the common man, the normal guy, everybody who can relate to. What I was talking about is our morality nowadays, and our own philosophy change. Guys nowadays can show more emotion, because back then all we was taught was, not all, to be cold and emotionless, and that gave us some strength but made us killing machine. What I'm trying to tell you is, she is right, but my personal feelings, you kind of let some of the guys lose their strength because they're being emotional. There's some days you just have to lock that down. It's not bad, but that was just me. I'm not talking about like some president or rich douchebag or white guy. I'm talking about just a normal person, because human beings, if you give men and women power, they'll be drunk with it. If you give a woman power over men, she's gonna abuse that. Give a man power with women, he's gonna abuse that. It's human nature. It's desire. It's in our basic, idea. It's just the sense of control. That's it. I'm not talking about like president. Heck, they've been female freaking. Oh, what am I gonna say? Radicals? No, some crap like that. Tyrants. Thank you. There've been female tyrants in history. But guess what?
Never said there wasn't. I'm just saying that even if I bring up your point, you say that if men have lost their power because they've become emotional over these last few decades. They've shown their emotions. Yeah, okay. Why do you think that's why you think that's just gonna stop them from like losing power? We have world leaders who use their emotions in conflicts and they still gain more power.
Well, I think the issue here is that we're kind of seeing emotion as being a feminine trait, and it isn't. And we're seeing strength as being a male trait, and it isn't. Like everybody has both of those things. They're really strong women, really unemotional women, and there are men who don't have a lot of strength but do have a lot of emotion. And since the beginning of time, we have kind of associated emotion with being a feminine trait and strength as being a masculine trait, but they're not opposites, and they're not like, you can have both, you can have neither. And I think we really kind of need to understand and recognize that that's not the way it is. Like we've pigeonholed people into those ideas, but that's not the way that it really is. Like it's fine for men to show emotion, it's fine for women not to, it's fine for women to show strength, it's fine for men not to. But I think you both have a good point, and I'm kind of hurrying us along because we've got about 10 minutes left. But I think LeBron has a really good point, because since the 1700s, back then it would have been all men working, all women staying home, tending to the kids, cooking and cleaning. And that's not the way it is anymore. And you could see that as a loss of power, or you can see it as kind of leveling the playing field. But I mean, I think about my sister and her husband. He does all the cooking, he does most of the cleaning. They both work, but they definitely have some traits that back then would have been looked on as really strange or even not allowed. But Cece also has a really good point. I think that Abigail Adams would probably be pretty surprised to learn that it's 300 years later and we're just now getting our first female vice president. Like that's pretty slow progress on that front, in my opinion. So I think you both are making really good points. And I don't think just one of you is right. But let's take a quick look at this list of women's legal limitations during the 18th century. It's only 5 things, but women were not allowed to vote. We didn't get that until relatively recently in the history of our country. When women were married, all of her property became the legal possession of her husband. She no longer had any control over it. Women were only allowed to run small businesses on a very limited basis, and that would be like inns and shops. Men were allowed to use corporal punishment on their wives, meaning men could beat their wives, and that was fine.
You can still do that in the front of the courthouse on Sundays. I just learned that from my mom.
She what?
Yeah. It just has to be smaller than your hand or like your elbow, so like a stick would be allowed.
And lastly, if a divorce were to occur, husbands would retain custody of the children. Women had no rights with regards to children, and that's one way that's really been switched since the 1700s. Because now, if we have a divorce, the court will almost always side with the mother. They just give a mother more preference than they do a father. So that's very different than now. So this is what the assignment is for you guys. And I'll talk to you about the due date in just a second. You're going to imagine that you're Abigail Adams and you're writing a letter to John, who is creating the new laws of a new country. you're going to express your opinion on at least one of the facts listed above. You can talk about more than one, but write to John Adams and express your opinion as Abigail on one of these things. So you kind of have to keep in mind the stuff that she says to him in the letter that we read and kind of what you know about her mindset. She's hoping for more power, more freedom for women. And these are some of the limitations that they have at the time. So tomorrow is kind of a weird limbo day. Like, we're going to have class like normal and everything, but we have to get our grades in today, but tomorrow is actually the end of the quarter. So knowing that, I'm not going to make this due until Wednesday because I don't want you guys to have to worry about anything. No, this Wednesday. I mean, this only has to be like a paragraph. So today, what you really need to focus on is making sure that you get your essay turned in as soon as possible. And then tomorrow we'll do some other stuff. And then this will be due Wednesday. So we only have like 7 minutes left of class. I'm not going to start anything new today. Does anybody have any questions about this assignment or about the essay?
Nope. Yeah, my essay almost done, but the assignment doesn't seem hard. Just one paragraph.
Yeah, it can be more than one paragraph. You can write about more than one of those laws, but I'm only expecting like a paragraph. Letters generally aren't that long. Like if you look at the one that we read, it's really not very long. It's separated into several paragraphs, but it's not long. It should be pretty easy. I think a couple of you were either done or very close to being done with your essays, but you just need to make sure that you submit them. There's been a couple of instances where, I don't know if it was in this class or not. Well, actually, like, yes, Jenny, your test, people are saying they shared stuff with me and for some reason it just wasn't going through. So just double check if you're concerned that I might not have something, just double check or err on the side of caution and resend it. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
Also,
we need a debate club.
We do need a debate club, and
You
I will stand on the side of women 100%. Even if the woman is wrong, I have to stand on the side of women. Just because that is how much I kind of dislike men. Like at this point in my life, like that is how much I will stand by a woman 100% of the time. Like I can't even look my male customers in my eye when I have them. I look at the females because they're easier to talk to, and the men are just so scary looking at the store. Like if you see them, a majority of the customers on average, they're like 6 feet tall, like that tall and above. So like it's crazy downtown. So I'm not sexist. I just believe that it's easier to talk to somebody who is like me. That's how I feel.
All right, that way I'm not gonna lie. Okay, despite the sexism, I'm more of a center guy. I will understand man and women.
I don't like men. You're right, Kate. I really don't.
But that's bad on you, CC, because you gotta be able to handle both. Heck, I'm a guy, but I know how to deal with women and men.
I know how to deal with women and men too. That doesn't mean I have to like y'all. I just generally don't like y'all. I know how to talk to y'all though.
That's why you would be good in a debate club, because if you're saying like you just said, even if the woman is wrong, I have to take her side.
I have to take her side.
Yeah. Club, sometimes you have to debate stuff that you don't really believe, but you're just trying to make everybody else see the point. So
exactly,
you're good at that.
All right, we need that club. Someone
we do need it, Miss McClellan. Got to get on top of that, cause
I do too many clubs as it is. I can't do it.
Because me and Cecil will be two people just arguing the most, I believe.
Be the greatest team captain. I don't think anybody understands. I'd be the greatest team captain.
I feel like I'd be dead Sam if I become a team captain.
Though, and like that's the tough part for you guys. You have like a cutoff time. Like,
oh my god, I feel like me and Caesar would be that two people just arguing the most.
Yeah,
y'all would be like Donald Trump and Joe Biden in the first debate, and just like
Exactly.
CC will be that Donald Trump moment because you come.
I would no. Dare you? I would be Joe Biden all day, every day.
Oh, really? That last
Joe
debate,
Biden,
you
yes.
cut me off. You're trying to cut me off. It's like, oh, I didn't finish.
Okay, and I would still be Joe Biden out of all of this. I would still be Joe Biden. Technically, I would be Kamala Harris and you would be Pence. If we were really being honest about this,
Why do I have to
we
be
would
Pence?
not
Why
be
can't be a
president.
libertarian?
We would not be president.
Oh, 'cause they didn't debate.
No, what if they did? I'll take the libertarian side because I don't like the left or right. They both suck. They both
I
have too
don't
much
know about
radical.
that. I don't know about that. I think personally,
We're always gonna have, different opinions about that. I feel that's not even worth debating because you're not gonna convince anybody.
Yeah, but that would be nice. Just have a debate club. And
I
me,
think
CC,
both
would be
sides-
captains of both.
I think both sides have good points, just different ways of showing their points. That's what it is. So,
Yeah. Oh my God, we do need that debate club or like a student. I think of joining a student council because I just want to hear me and CC just debate.
well, student council surprisingly is not that. We only sat through readings last year and just talked about what we were going to do for hot chocolate for like a majority of it. So it like wasn't really too crazy in student council if we're really being honest.
We do have a different person in charge of student council this year, so maybe it'll be,
Different. Yeah. And plus it won't be
Bigger
the
building
first time.
this time, so we can do more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we all need to be in school at some point, and
Hey, they never got a vaccine, so
I don't. Flu season this year is kind of scary, not gonna lie.
You're right.
I just have to get my flu shot. But at Publix, if you do get your flu shot, you get a $10 gift card. So make sure y'all roll up on Publix, get y'all flu shot. Telling you.
They paid you to get a flu shot?
Yes, sir. We had a flu shot day for our coworkers, and we just got gift cards. And they just give us gift cards randomly sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they. I got a button the last time, and that was it, which was cool. I guess it just said 90 years on it, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So.
Okay, well, I gotta let y'all go because the bell's gonna ring in just a second. But make sure that you get your essay turned in by 3 o'clock, so that I can get those graded. See you tomorrow.